We throw them away, and there's no chance of them ever really getting out of the trash can. So, because what happens is, once you're convicted of a crime, which anybody can be convicted of a crime these days, all you have to do is start looking up. There's about 2,000, 3,000 actual criminal federal laws on the books, but there's more than 300,000 regulations that could have the force of law per agency. Nobody knows how many laws there are that can be used to make you a criminal. Nobody knows. I'm not making that up. Google it. Okay? So anybody can be found guilty of these crimes, and whenever you get found guilty, you serve your time. If you can better yourself in prison, you may do that. I know some of them these days actually have trade schools and stuff. But even if you do that, once you get out, you can be denied. You can be denied housing. There was a story. I forget what the documentary was, but there was a guy he was working offshore. He was making like $200,000 a year, but he couldn't get an apartment because he was a felon. And on all of his documentation, he had to put that he was a felon, and nobody would give him an apartment. So that's somebody who's working, he's making money, he's trying to better himself, he's trying to, and we're talking, this man couldn't get a place to live. The people, there's people out there that can't get a car loan. There's people out there, there's people out there that can't find a job, who are trying to work and get out of this cycle, and they can't find a job because they have to check that little box that says, have you been convicted of a felony? And they got to check that box. So it's disproportionately affecting minority communities, which is it's what we can do in our generation. To our previous generation, our grandfather's generation, give them credit for getting through the civil rights era and improving that much. That progress that has been made since the days of chattel slavery. That's because every once in a while a generation says, we pause and we say, what can we do? What can we do to make this situation better? Now, we know it's not going to be better overnight, but what can we give to our children to run forward with and give to their children so that maybe, 200 years from now, we can all just be a mark in a textbook somewhere where the kids are learning about this time when we were incarcerating mass amounts of poor people and not even seeing the correlation between that closed loop and minorities, and we look back and we judge, history and the actions of people that didn't know better. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It was just the way the culture was and society was. They accepted terrible things just based on what was, accepted at the time. And, everybody should take a look at what we're doing now in this day and age and ask yourself, are we doing the same thing? And what part of how we're living right now morally, according to our values, according to the values of America, how are future generations going to judge us? Nobody should suffer in this country if they're willing to work for it. Anybody, that's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When I hear that last one, the one that rings in my mind is opportunity. Opportunity. It doesn't matter how poor I am in this country. I want you to give me a shot that if I'm willing to get up every morning at 4 a.m. and I'm willing to work until 2 p.m, I should be the most successful man on my block. Okay? Which should make everybody else want to work harder. That's what America is. That's why this country's so great, is because people can come from all over the world. And the things that bind us together, we're not Germans because we don't have a shared heritage like Germans and the British and the French and the Italians. What pulls us together as a country are those shared values, the belief in liberty and equality and opportunity. And that if you come here and you work hard, there's no limit to what you can succeed. That's what this country's supposed to be. And that's not what it is. I know that because I left my hometown 20 years ago and I'm returning now. And if my daughter was raised in the same community I was raised in, she would face the same challenges of poverty and lack of opportunity and crime and drugs and just. So when do we learn? Let's see if we can improve it before we give it to our children. Let's see if we can just do a little better and hopefully get at the cause of the symptoms, the disease of poverty that's causing people to need government assistance with food, health care, every aspect of even being alive. that they have to rely on their own government, even though they're willing to work. It's the problem that our politicians don't want to deal with, because it's easier just to give you money. It's easier just to promise you more. I'm going to promise you that we're going to spend more money on your benefit. Well, I don't want to give you fish. I want to teach you to fish. Until you learn, we're going to make sure you have fish. And we're not going to walk away until you learn. But that way you can teach your son and daughter, and they can teach their children. Because that's what America is.